Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the panel discussion on Pakistan towards 2015. Why is 2015 important? Well, the United Nations has identified a set of 18 development goals that are to be achieved by 2015. More popularly, they are known as Millennium Development Goals. One of the 8 goals is to reduce poverty by half by the year 2015. And that is the subject of today's discussion. Of course, the question we can rightly ask is, why has poverty not been reduced even after 58 years of independence? After all, Pakistan is a resource-rich country, and we do not have the kind of population pressure that India or Bangladesh faces. However, the question that we will be discussing today is what needs to be done now to reduce poverty by the year 2015. To discuss this, we have a very distinguished panel. To my right, we have Mr. Wasim Jafri. He has had a very long and distinguished career in economic planning. He has been Secretary Finance, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. He has held several secretary-level positions in economic ministries. He has been the Deputy Chairman of the Planning Commission. He has been Governor of the State Bank, and his last position was that of Economic Advisor to the Prime Minister. My next guest is Dr. Asif. He is an economist, and his forte is macroeconomic policy, has done work on industrial policy and on poverty. To my left here is Ms. Qazi. She is the Chief Executive and Editor-in-Chief of the Financial Post. She has position that she has been holding for the past 7 years. She's a lawyer by training, and as in her position as Editor-in-Chief of the Financial Post, has had a chance to look at the economy from a vantage position and the processes that are operating. My fourth guest is Qazi, another economist. Political economy is his forte. He has been teaching in the London School of Economics and the University of Sussex, and has been working on poverty issues, has made some very useful contribution in that area. I would request the panelists to make a brief 3 to 5 minute presentation on the subject, that is, what needs to be done to reduce poverty by half by the year 2015. May I ask Mr. Wasim Jafri to lead the discussion.
The government has drawn up a plan called Medium-Term Development Framework for 2215. Here they have shown a very rapid rate of progress between now and 1910, a rate of progress which is implausible, but still we wish them the best of success. Now, if this achievement is realized by 1910, then the capture of the goal for 1015, which is the goal for the middle development millennium goals, or whatever it is, that would become feasible if provided the achievements in 1910 are reached. Now, I would like to leave the evaluation of all these plans and so on to our more distinguished experts and economists who have been working on this for a long time. And I'd like to deal with 2 or 3 issues which are don't figure in discussions on these matters, because they're not economic, although they have very decisive outcomes on economic and what actually happened in the economic field. Now, these are political economic issues, and one of them is that this is a country which has limited resources, And there are two very main demands of them. One is for defense and the other is for development. Is there any attempt to coordinate and make them consistent, or are both demands going separately with the result that there will be confusion and some demands will not have the allocation met fully and others will be short-changed? And the second question is that is the defense strategy being followed consistent with our economic aims? And the third question is whether our present mode of government, or rather lack of consensus on mode of government, how does it affect the achievement of targets in the international field? Now, on the first question about whether there is an integrated planning, one would have thought that there should be an integrated planning. Resources are common and they are limited, and there are several areas where they can be used. Then the country should get together and decide. But in fact, there is none. At the moment, the only allocation made between the two is at the level of the annual budget. And the annual budget is inadequate instrument simply because the commitments are all very long term, and those commitments cannot be changed year by year. So the 90% of the ongoing budget, 90% of the budget is preempted by the ongoing budget. So the budget cannot really influence spending or allocate between development and security. Another thing which impedes coordination is that defense budget is privileged. The details are not disclosed and they are not discussed, and there is no independent scrutiny of the way the plans have been drawn up and assessed. Now, the consequence of all this is that the defense expenditures get privileged treatment, and therefore they are met to a more adequate extent. I don't say that they are fully met, but they are met to a more adequate extent than those are required for development, because many decisions are taken in the development field outside the budgetary considerations at a time because of international situations or various other urgencies. And then once the decisions are taken, like the decision to acquire 1,000 F-16, once they are taken, they have to be implemented. So there is a privileging of defense expenditures and a curtailing of the expenditures on development. Now the other, and this of course explains what I've been saying earlier, that we are 9 in the possession of nuclear weapons in the world, but we are 142 in human development index. So you can see that the way resources have been allocated in Pakistan have followed the power pattern, and you have a very well-armed army and a social and economic base which is very poor. Second question which I'd like to take, and I'd like to finish it very quickly if I can. There's a time left? A little. Okay, that is that the defense strategy is that our main threat is from the neighboring country, and therefore we must maintain a deterrence of 8 to 1. 3 to 1. If they have 3, then we must have 1. Now this is quite sound military doctrine, but when you transpose it to the economic scene, India and Pakistan, you find that India is 8 times our size. So the defense burden on Pakistan is twice heavier than it is on India. And the consequence is that India therefore has 3%, about 3% of GDP more to spend on development. 3% more GDP to spend on defense compared to Pakistan. Now, what have been the consequences? And this is likely to continue because we are not likely to overtake them in economic progress. We are not likely to reduce the size of the disparity. So this is going to be the trend in the future between these two countries. Now, what has happened